Culture Briefing Program for Canada. Canada is known as a democratic, affluent, high-technology oriented and industrial society. Canada is a very successful trading nation. In 2012, they were the 11th most successful trading nation. Canada's predominant trade partner is America, at 73.7% of its exports. In recent years, Canada has begun to decrease its dependence on America's exports. The Canadian banking system is considered a world leader. The Canadian government is based on the British parliamentary system. Their Prime Minister is the leader of the party with the most seats elected into the Parliament. There is also an independent judiciary and Senate, although the Senate is filled with members appointed by the sitting Prime Minister. The provinces have independent powers, allowing them to negotiate trades, dealing between the provinces in order to control their local markets. This is essential information to know when doing trade with other Canadian companies.
Canadian history. Canada has a rich history of being a country full of different ethnic groups. Canada is thought to be the first settled by people crossing the ice bridge from Siberia in approximately 30,000 BC. It was discovered by Europeans first by John Cabot in 1497 and by the French by Jacques Cartier in 1534. During the 1700s and the 1800s, numerous European wars were waged in Canada due to the proximity of the different colonies of the countries. The end of the French-Indian War marked the end of French rule in Canada. Unlike American independence, Canada's independence was done peacefully. In 1906, the last of the territories were joined together in the Confederation of Canada. Although America and Canada border each other, they have similarities and they have many differences. Americans can traditionally very informal, but are very business oriented. However, Canadians are formal, but they're very socially aware of helping others. Some of these differences depend on the point of view of the individual. Here are some examples of differences and similarities. An important aspect of Canada is beware of the languages spoken throughout the country. Canada's primary language is English, while French is the second most spoken language. There's also a number of different Asian dialects that have begun to increase with popularity due to influx of immigrants moving into Canada. Like America, these languages and dialects can occur just based on location. Throughout Canada's history, its culture has been influenced by European culture and traditions, and by its own native Indian cultures. Canada's unique mixtures of cultures make it attractive for those who want to live or work there. The cultures in Canada are very strongly influenced by the regions where they are located.
The regional influences of Canada the first one is Ontario. This region is known for its agriculture and manufacturing. It is located just north of the Great Lakes region, and its largest city is Toronto and Ottawa. This region has seen a large growth of Japanese and other Asian immigrants in recent years. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba are known as the Prairie region. This region is economically known for livestock and grain farming, but in recent years has become an oil and gas extraction region. Its largest cities are Calgary and Edmonton, and it is culturally similar to Texas and much of the Midwest. Quebec is culturally holds on to its French heritage. This region, they still speak French as their number one language. In the past, they relied on abundant natural resources, but in recent years, they have seen a growth in manufacturing and industry due to their location near many waterways. It is important to have awareness of the business environment and the relationships with Americans. The relationship between the two countries is necessary because of the NAFTA trade agreements and their proximity to one another. But as stated earlier, they're also very different because their cultures, cultural backgrounds, and their historical backgrounds came from different roots. When doing business in Canada, it is important to have some daily business tips. Both countries are very different, and Canadians are especially aware of this. However, when doing business with them, it is good to not point out these differences if possible. It's also important to be aware of the local languages. Most areas in Canada speak English, but in some areas such as Quebec, they predominantly speak French. In many growing urban areas, including Toronto and Vancouver, Asian immigrants have come into this area, and there is a need for Asian-speaking people. Canadians are very formal. They dress neat and speak properly, using Mr. and Miss instead of first names. Their meetings are very formal, where Americans' meetings are traditionally laid back and less structured. All Canadians have a voice regardless of race, seniority, or gender. Everyone in meetings is allowed to speak. It is also important to treat women equally. Women visitors and workers are very well respected, and all Canadians believe in treating them as such. And Canadian communication style is very direct and can be taken at face value. This can be different when dealing with Asians in the region, who are traditionally indirect communicators. Some ethical and relationship issues in Canada are: the first is bribery. Bribes are accepted in small amounts. For example, a bottle of whiskey is allowed, but not a large gift of $10,000 or something. There's also minimal rules on bribery in Canada. It's traditionally thought of as a common sense situation. And Canadian business relationships are different than in America. Respect is important, like in America, but helping others is the most important. They're very socially aware with what a business, what is going on in a business relationship, and they make sure to do right by others.
Relocation, in any situation, may be wanted or unwanted, but it can be necessary. Acculturation is the process in integrating into new culture. If the correct preparation steps are taken, then the process can be very successful.